Hi everyone, Jennifer Blevins-Smith with Integral Clinic Solutions, and you're watching my YouTube channel, Navigating the Business of Medicine. Today I want to talk about providers working for more than one employer. I get the question all the time, is it okay if providers work for more than one entity at the same time? So maybe they moonlight somewhere or they work part-time one place, part-time another separate place. And yes, it's totally fine. There is a way that the insurances track where they're working and how to reimburse for those fee-for-services. And it's very simple. And I'm going to explain that in just a second. So the short answer is yes, absolutely they can. I'm going to explain how the insurances keep it separate, but I'm also going to talk about something that could happen to just bring awareness. It's not super common, but it does happen. So to start with, yes, providers, whether it's a doctor, it's a mid-level, it's a physical therapist, they can work for different entities, different separate employers, right? They can work for someone over here on the weekends, they can work during the week over here at another employer, or maybe they work part-time, or they moonlight and cover. They can totally do that. And that's because their MPI-1, which is their individual MPI number, is associated to each tax ID and MPI-2, which is a group MPI in which they work. That's why when you're doing credentialing and contracting, you have your list of providers, your roster of providers who are affiliated with that group. And that's why you have to affiliate individual providers with a group contract in order for them to be able to be recognized when those claims go over. When a claim is submitted, you have the service location on there. You have the billing entity, which is usually the group with the group MPI. You always have the group tax ID. And then in box 24J or ANSI equivalent, which is the electronic form of the claim, there's 24J, which is the rendering provider. The rendering provider and their individual MPI is on every claim. So when the insurance receives that claim, they see the group, they see the rendering provider, and if there's a connection in their system between the two, then they're like, good, we know that we need to pay this billing entity based off of this provider is associated with this group because of the tax ID MPI-2 and their MPI-1 is connected, and we send the check and ERA off to that entity. And then their other employer does the same thing, separate tax ID, separate NPI-2, but that provider is also associated to that contract. Good, we'll send the payment onto this. So that's how it works. Same within PICOS and CMS. You get a separate PTAN, which is like the Medicare identification number for each entity in which that individual provider works. So the group gets assigned a PTAN, like a group MPI, but it's for CMS specifically. And then each provider gets an individual assigned PTAN once they're affiliated with that group. So one provider could have 5 different PTANs active at once because they work for 5 different employers, and each PTAN is connected to a different employer as their individual PTAN at that group. So that's how things are supposed to be separated in the insurance software. And with technology, it's very simple, right? It's mapping, it's connecting, dot, 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 dot. Well, what I wanted to bring attention to you today is talking about one, yes, they can work for multiple different entities at the same time, but two, what could happen and what you need to pay attention to, especially if you're overseeing or watching the revenue cycle in your practice, if you're watching reimbursements closely. You need to make sure that you're getting one, proper reimbursement for those providers, that they're following the right contract, right? Because you don't want them to accidentally give you the contract for their other entity somehow, their mapping getting crossed, and you're getting paid possibly less or maybe even more, and then it gets found out and you have to pay them back. That would be bad too. So you need to make sure the reimbursement is consistent with all your providers for all your insurances, okay? And you should be looking at this regularly anyway. If you've watched any of my revenue cycle videos, you know that you should be making sure that you're getting the reimbursement per your contracts on a regular basis, okay? So that's one. Two, you need to make sure that the ERAs are coming addressed to you and the entity, and it has the right provider's name on it, because sometimes things can get crossed and you might end up accidentally receiving ERAs that has the other entity's contact information, like address. It has your correct name, but it has the incorrect address or has an incorrect tax ID. You just want to make sure that you're just looking those over and everything looks correct from all the insurances if you know you have providers that are working at separate entities, okay? So you want to make sure that you're doing that. And then the other thing that you want to make sure is that you are not receiving ERAs or EOBs from insurances for patients that are not yours with that provider's name on it. Like they're not accidentally, when this provider sees Jane Doe over here, that's not your patient, you're getting those ERAs and you're going, wait, I don't have a Jane Doe in my system. They weren't seen on this date of service. What's going on? Well, accidentally, somehow things got crossed. Like I said, it doesn't happen very often, but it can. So, being aware of your providers and who's working for other entities at the same time will help you kind of be on alert and be on the lookout and be like, oh my gosh. This also happens sometimes early on when providers switch from one entity to another where they no longer work at the other entity, but for some reason the insurance hasn't like updated their system correctly to connect them to you, and your stuff is going to them maybe, and you're not seeing payments coming in, and you're going, whoa, you're looking at your AR and you're like, why is Dr. Smith's ERAs from Blue Cross not coming in? Like we have 45, 60-day outstanding with no response. Whoop, something's going on there. You better call the insurance. And if you know they came from another entity, specifically ask, where are you sending these ERAs? Where are you sending these checks, right? Making sure that they're not going to the wrong place, and vice versa. If you're seeing stuff come in for you, for this provider with patients that you don't recognize, dates of service you don't have in there for patients, then that's probably happening and you need to alert the insurances as soon as possible. So again, you need to know the providers, who's working for who during the same time, or where they came from in case there's some temporary overlap that needs to be fixed. But then you'll be able to make sure you get those fixed as soon as possible. Remember, being proactive, not reactive, okay? So that's really important. But again, providers can work for multiple different entities. Obviously, it's up to your policies at your practice whether you endorse that or support that or not. That's none of my business. And you might have reasons behind why you don't want them to. But if you do, then you just need to be aware of this so that your billing staff, your revenue cycle, your manager, whoever oversees it, can just do their checks and balances and make sure that there's no issues. And if there are, they can be fixed very soon before it kind of snowballs and gets out of control. Because trust me, it can be messy sometimes. And you don't want to have to do takebacks, or sometimes if they paid the other entity, they have to do their takebacks first before they can pay you. So that can be a delay in payment to you. And it's just, ugh, it's a nightmare. It's not fun. And it does happen. It doesn't happen a lot, but it can happen. So this is an awareness video like I like to do, just to let you know. If you have any questions or comments about this, please leave that in the comments below. Smash the thumbs up button if today's video was helpful. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And as always, please share this with your colleagues whom you feel would benefit. Thank you so much. I hope you have a good day. Bye-bye.